I'm totally off Twitter these days, guys. So gave up.
Richard, what the heck, man?
This coronavirus thing, it was too stressful being on Twitter all day, so I just cut it out. And also, there was no kind of Bitcoin content. It was all like experts about coronavirus. So
That's true.
Nothing to offer me.
We're gonna take the topics a little bit outside of.
All right, John, we're actually live now.
bunch where I talk to folks in the industry.
Perfect. And next we have, I believe in Beijing, Flex.
Good day, folks. It's Flex from Baiwa Finance. We are sitting in Beijing, and actually we have been passed through all the quarantine things, and we have been recovered a lot. And Baiwa Finance is actually a financial services provider for the big Bitcoin miners to make them to become true hodlers, not really sell their coins. We help them to keep them. Yeah.
All right, God's work, preaching to the choir here. And one of the big successes in the last really just short time. It's been a great start for Babel. And last but not least, Molly.
Hi, I'm Molly.
Molly, I think you're lagging a little bit. Molly, can you hear us? All right, we'll give you a little time to get the audio going, Molly, and get you back. All right, so quick first rules of the game here. Same rules we have for our more Western edition. Number one, no shilling altcoins. We're talking about Bitcoin today. And then these are general rules, but also drinking game rules. So if you do any of these things, everyone's going to make you take a nice chug. So number one, no shilling altcoins. Number two, you can't say print. Everyone's talking about printing money these days. We're gonna just try to use different words. So if you say print, you're taking a drink, and you cannot say fiat. No saying fiat. If you say fiat, you're drinking. So just the drinking game rules for today. Perfect. All right, let's hop in. CK, if you want to just change to that next slide. Starting out, let's kind of take a big picture view to start out. We've got the interest from everyone. We know where everyone's coming from, geographically, companies. We have a nice diverse group from different kind of sectors of the industry, which is great. Let's kind of start with a kind of a macro view of what's happening. And I think no one is better suited to speak to that than Simon, who's been opining about that for the last decade and has been prescient in a lot of his calls. So Simon, just can you set the stage for us, kind of where we are specifically in Asia, macroeconomic environment, how Bitcoin kind of is starting to play into that, what you're hearing from kind of your institutional folks on that side. Just set the stage for us, Simon.
Okay, yeah. So, we're what I consider, I won't use the word, but we're at a transition phase from what I consider to be the world's largest regulated Ponzi scheme, which is that type of money that I'm not allowed to mention without taking a drink. Essentially, we've at the end of a debt creation cycle whereby consumers are all maxed out on their credit cards, businesses are maxed out on their credit cards, governments are maxed out on their credit cards, and now we're moving to an economy where the central bank owns everything. And so the reality is that in the current environment where we've hit this unique time in human history where we have this health crisis where the governments have no choice but to chuck absolutely everything at it, I think we've entered a phase where the traditional financial system as we know it today is no more. And I agree that the government need to chuck absolutely everything at it. But the reality is that under the existing model of how we have used fiscal, monetary, central banking policies globally, we have to essentially reset that system. The tools that we use to operate our economy on before are all maxed out. So the monetary policy has been completely thrown upside down. Fiscal policy has been blown into bankruptcy, and interest rates are no more. So really the only thing that comes next is radical banking and financial reform. And I believe that the tool that that the governments are going to use in order to take us out of this, once we get past the health crisis, we move into the economic and financial crisis. And the only tool that's left to do that is actually a central bank digital currency. That central bank digital currency is going to be a radical shift in how we've done things. Every individual is going to have an account with the central bank. And that's going to create a really horrible form of money that I won't mention. That is good for certain things like paying our rent and managing our day-to-day expenditure. But it comes with really problematic things that will be built into that currency. And so when I look at Bitcoin today and over the last 10 years, we've had events that educate people to what Bitcoin is. Unlike a bank, Bitcoin gives you the ability to own your own money. With a bank, they own it for you. With Bitcoin, you can spend it as you choose. With banking, you have to get permission from the bank to spend it. And if you do something like send it to a crypto exchange, your money gets taken, shut down, and asked to put somewhere else. And I won't use the words that I can't use to refer to a press. It goes. Brr, 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 brr.
You got to say it. You just have to drink too. So.
Essentially, that form of money is being created in vast quantities through debt. And Bitcoin has a fixed supply moving into halving. And so all of this creates a conversation where the entire world starts to question whether they should own their own money, spend their own money, and what a money supply looks like that's not subject to increases. And so I think we're going to have, although initially Bitcoin went down with the stock markets, the gold markets, real estate markets next, all markets crashed and Bitcoin went with it. From here, I think the world starts to understand that Bitcoin is a hedge against some of the financial crisis that we've got ahead. And it happens to coincide with a time when the Bitcoin supply tightens at a time when every other supply is easing. So it's a really interesting time in history. And I think today is the most exciting time to be alive in financial history. I'm just sad that it cost so many people's life and we had to enter such a tragic time where the world is in isolation to discover that Bitcoin actually has value to more people. And so we're kind of in the world now of where the world knows that Bitcoin exists, but what does it mean to them? Some thinks it's a Ponzi scheme, some thinks it's a currency for drug dealers, some thinks it's a get-rich-quick scheme, some think it's a scam, and others realize that it's actually our world's best shot at achieving hard money and an exit from the traditional financial system. As more people discover that, I think the demand for Bitcoin is going to increase steadily over time, and all of the companies and representatives on this are going to start to see increased demands for people that are discovering that for the first time.
Yeah, I think that's great stage setting. The most exciting time to be alive in financial history. I like it. Maybe Jason, your team has written some about this kind of central bank issue digital currency situation out in Asia. You have any kind of additional comment there on Simon's kind of timeline of what happens here?
Yeah, I think I don't think I could have put it better than Simon did. I think what I would add is out here in Asia, I think back in China later last year, we have Premier Xi Jinping basically coming out and saying that China wants to be a leader in blockchain technology. And I think we're seeing a lot of nations that potentially want to not be left in the dust because of that. So you have a lot of interesting tailwinds from a fundamental perspective that could push people towards adoption. And I think central banks are realizing this as well. Actually, I think a few hours ago, the Financial Stability Board actually put out kind of some guidances around stable coins because they're concerned that, you know, as emerging markets, as currency starts to devalue significantly against USD, you know, these stable coins out there could potentially act as some sort of a pseudo USD for people to get out of their existing financial ecosystem. So I think crypto is becoming more and more relevant in the current macroeconomic climate. And it's like Simon said, it's kind of a bitter, I wouldn't say it's a bitter sweet thing. It's an interesting thing because you have, this backdrop of this kind of global catastrophe that's going on, and at the same time, there couldn't be a better kind of setup for Bitcoin in terms of adoption and awareness.
Yeah. And then, by the way, everyone, feel free to pop in whenever you want. This is kind of a free-flowing thing too. Maybe I don't think Molly actually was tweeting about something that MIIT, Ministry of Industry and Information Technology in China, came out with yesterday. Some kind of a new working group around it.
Just to be clear, John, this is a shitcoin, so you need a drink.
Fair enough. I brought it up, so we need a drink. But to set the stage for
liquid rich, is it still a shitcoin?
Next order of operations here of how we get to hyper Bitcoinization. Maybe said by my partner there. Great. Maybe so.
Richard, can I ask you if the central bank digital currency or shitcoin is built upon liquid, does that make it a non-shitcoin because it's built on?
No, it's totally a shitcoin. Like so obviously people who may know Blockstream will know that we have a liquid sidechain. There will be shitcoins built on liquid. I think there's no kind of doubt about that. Anybody's kind of looking for any kind of excuse they can to do a shitcoin. I don't think it's the technology that makes something a shitcoin. I think it's whether or not it makes more sense. So I don't think most people would argue that something like I don't know, one of the Ethereum 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, 6.0, their technology is probably better than kind of Ethereum for a lot of stuff. Just because it came out later, it's easier to update some of the mistakes that they made. It doesn't mean that they're not more of a shitcoin than Ethereum is. So if all
shitcoins move over to bitcoins, do bitcoins, the rhetoric around shitcoins, change for bitcoins?
I don't know. For me, shitcoin's always shitcoin. If it's not Bitcoin, then it's inevitably a shitcoin. So I think we live in a Bitcoin and shitcoin world, and we're going to still live in that world for the foreseeable future. And to be honest, some shitcoins may help us move from the kind of system that you're referring to into the financial kind of future that we kind of want to get to. But I wouldn't actually argue that it's as kind of how to say it, as easy to kind of move from where we are today to where we think we're going. Because I think what we've seen from this kind of COVID stuff is that people are willing to accept a lot of kind of governmental control over their lives if they think it will make them safer. And so there's always going to be an argument that this applies to kind of finance as well. So if governments say that you have to stay indoors in order to keep yourself safe, people, okay, maybe accept that. You've seen in China now the QR codes that tell you whether you're green or yellow or red to go into kind of certain buildings. And I think that's very similar to kind of what we have with the existing financial system. And it's an argument that potentially more should be done, and we should move more in that direction. The government should protect us more and give us UBI and do all of this stuff and ration food. And so I don't think it's clear cut that we're going to move in the direction that we want to move in, and that will be the better direction to move. But obviously, I hope everybody on this call realizes that that's the way to go, and going to do what we can to make it happen.
Yeah, I think I'm going to jump in here. So, I mean, we've been doing a lot of Tether in China. So obviously, like it's been a pretty good tool, and we've seen in the last 12 months a lot of people that came into the space are traditional money exchangers. They're getting used to the sort of like using USDT or using other stable coins to move money. Sorry, I need a drink here. But it's been we've seen more interest in them in Bitcoin, especially during the drop. We've also seen ATM flow double, if not triple,
in the last in the last
in
few
the
months.
last 2 months. In the last 2 months. And I think in the regulatory space, today there was an announcement. I mean, we've been using Chainalysis, and what we realized in the past is like Huobi is not on Chainalysis. And then today there's been some announcement that they have this tool, what is it called? Star Atlas. It's similar to like Chainalysis, Elliptic. I think
Right.
that is going to play a big part. And also the last few months, we've seen a lot of these brokers also having issues with their bank accounts. So we're seeing more crackdown on people using Tether. And then now we see we'll be introducing this regulatory tool to sort of like, that's what they're saying, you know, fighting like illicit movement of cryptocurrency. So I think like we're definitely moving towards the right direction, towards adoption and more usage on Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's interesting stats there on ATM usage. Is there a max on those ATMs in Hong Kong? Is that, would you consider that completely kind of retail users, or is it, what's kind of the cap on what you can buy? Or
I would say a lot of them are not price sensitive. Obviously, ATMs are, you know, we're charging like at least 7% above spot, and the last 2 months we've seen a significant increase. We've even seen queues similar to 2017 when there was Korean kimchi premium. People were flying over. We saw the premium as well the last couple of weeks. It went up to more than 7%, but it wasn't those people. These are many local people doing like, you know, a few $100 US, clip size, and yeah, I mean, these are people that are coming in looking for another option, I think.
Interesting. And we have folks on who run you know, companies with business lines directed towards institutions, whether it's kind of on the OTC side, trading side, or on the mining pool side, on the lending and financing side. Are you, Chun and Flex, are y'all seeing much of an uptick in interest, kind of similar to what Clement is saying in the last couple of months? Maybe Chun, if you can go first there.
It's a little bit hard for me because I mean, for myself, I you know, I feel we are a little bit different than some of the crypto company because we don't believe in God. That God is, you know, from the very first day we I'll try to avoid the censored words. So we are multi-currency mining pool, you know. So we support Bitcoin and yeah, a bunch of others. So I've been isolated. China have been like about 1 month, 1 month half ahead of rest of world in terms of coronavirus. So I've been isolated here like since late January, and have been following what's going on basically from the very beginning. So I have nothing to do here in the hotel, homeless here in China. So isolate myself in a hotel, but so everything at least in the very beginning first month, I had nothing to do but to watch the news every day. The BBC, CNN, you know.
How many flights do you usually take a year? Like 300? And now you've been stuck in a hotel for 3 months. Yeah, it's tough.
In the past months, I've been watch less TV. So the more you watch what's going on the news, the more you feel like stressful. And basically in the whole February, I feel myself I can't do anything but count the numbers. From 100 to 200, 1,000, 200, 2,000. Right now it's well beyond 1 million, but I feel nothing. Nothing similar. Yeah, but what we're doing is basically we're doing the same thing the Fed is doing. We are mining pool. We print money, and the Fed also print money. the Fed prints like 6 trillion.
Print.
Censored word, 6 trillion. And we also print. I didn't count. I don't know how much it is. I believe the Fed probably win. So the situation over the next month, I think could be very interesting. When Bitcoin have the, I mean, a lot of things could happen. I feel maybe Flex, he's more into this. He's doing lending, and I think he knows the market better. Flex.
Yeah, Flex. Any comment there on kind of inbound interest over the last few months? You're seeing an uptick. What types of folks are more interested now?
I think recent market development is quite interesting, as lots of people complain that Bitcoin is not a safe haven asset anymore. There's kind of conclusion they could have, but actually, after we have done our analysis, I show you on the screen that the correlation between Bitcoin and gold actually reached high. I mean, historical high. I mean, 0.49% compared to its correlation to SPX, namely Standard Poor 500. And some of the people saying that the Bitcoin is dead, or some similar thoughts on this, but we are quite confident on that. And recently, lots of people borrow Bitcoins from us, not to short it, but actually to do some arbitrage between the futures and the spot. And I think there will be some kind of good movement in the following days. It will rise to 8,000 in within the next few weeks, I think. So
nice prediction. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Can you end your screen share?
The safe haven argument is a bit of a challenging one, because a safe haven is always a safe haven against what? So what we've learned is that Bitcoin isn't a safe haven against a pandemic in the initial phases. That's what we have learned. We haven't learned whether it's a safe haven from a financial crisis, because at the moment, all markets are being propped up by the fiscal and monetary policies that are being implemented. So the test of what happens in an environment. So, the last time we had a financial crisis, Bitcoin was created. We're now about to enter the second financial crisis since Bitcoin. The first financial crisis since Bitcoin existed, essentially. It was obviously got pockets of adoption around the Cyprus bail-in scenario when it was alive. But this is really the first major test to that philosophy. I've often said it's also worth pointing out that in the initial phases of the 2007-8 financial crisis, gold crashed. But it then rebounded as the market starts to interpret. So when everyone is in a market of a race to cash, as we saw even in the crypto markets, you saw Tether go from 4 billion to 6.5 billion almost now, because people, Tether is the equivalent of crypto cash. But in the traditional markets, you're dumping assets in order to get into dollars. So that is obviously the initial reaction. But then what happens in an environment where people start to question what happens with money at a bank? Then you'll start to see whether Bitcoin actually becomes a safe haven. So I released a video on my YouTube channel called The Real Estate Market Crash and the 10 Things That Come Next, which was a bit of a forecast to how the government will react from here and what might come next. But in that video, I talked about we haven't seen whether Bitcoin is a safe haven yet. It's what's known as gold is what I call a store of value. Bitcoin's what I call a speculative store of value, which is that there's money to be made if Bitcoin does become a store of value. The earlier you believe in that, when the majority think it's something else. And so that's kind of the difference. Gold has established itself, but the fact that we now seeing more of a correlation between gold and Bitcoin And
thanks for that chart, Flex.
We're getting there.
Yeah. Anyone else have a follow-on comment there?
Can you see the chart here?
Yeah, we can see the chart. And Simon,
Hey Flex, last chart please, because when you screen share, you mess with the feed.
Okay. This one.
What are we looking at? USD,
Oh, this is
BTC?
Correlation between the Bitcoin price versus the global money supply. Namely, we see a big drop in the March that the global money supply dropped a lot, like dropped 4 trillion in March, simply in March. It's not because the Fed is not printing money. It's because the commercial banks, they stopped lending out US dollar. Yes, so the currency multiplied is like the currency multiplied is actually dropping. So we see a big drop in the global money supply. And we see a liquidity crisis rather than a financial crisis. So at the beginning of the market crisis, actually everything is dropping. SPX, gold, treasury, everything is dropping. But after the Fed's announcement of the infinity QE and they lowered the requirements and the bank's supplementary leverage ratio, everything comes back. So we see a big rebound in the Bitcoin, in the gold, in the treasury, in the stock market. And somebody complained that Bitcoin is not a safe haven assets, but compared to gold, yes, we see the correlation is actually 0.49, and compared to the correlation to SPX, recently lots of people saying that Bitcoin is just following SPX. So compared to this, we see actually the increasing correlation between gold and Bitcoin. So I think it's the best time to call Bitcoin as digital gold than any time else. So yeah.
Hey Flex, question also for you on you're kind of showing some of the volatility, some of the big drops in the last few weeks. As a as a lender, kind of a finance institution here, how are y'all handling those kind of big moves? Is it a problem for any of your borrowers? Can you kind of take us through some of the last kind of more volatile times for Babel and how y'all deal with that?
Yes, actually the key risk of this business is not on the Bitcoin's value, not on the price risk. I mean, not lots of people are saying that big drop in the Bitcoin will result like big loss to these lending platforms. Actually, I don't think so. I think the key risk is actually liquidity risk. And back to 12th March and 13th March, that's the key risk of the market is actually liquidity. There's no liquidity at all. Market makers are dead, and lots of people are actually kind of swiped out. So we see no liquidity there. But actually, we did something good. I mean, back to February, when there's a huge opportunity for the future spot arbitrage in February, namely we see like a premium of the future to the spot for like a 20 to 30% annualized. Lots of people long Bitcoin and short the future. And during back to February, lots of people get leveraged. So we have been building lots of options in Deribit, in CME, in BACT, back to February. So we were quite comfortable during the crisis. So lots of our clients have been given time to either top up more collaterals, or they can liquidate the portion of their collaterals to get rebalanced. We are not actually forcing lots of clients to get liquidated during the crisis, but the key risk there is liquidity risk, other than other things that we think. And actually, BitMEX shut down themselves. It's kind of claim that I think they did it right. Otherwise, Bitcoin we will see like a Bitcoin at 10 or 20, this kind of price range. So it was good, actually. Yeah.
That was certainly an eventful day. Interested to maybe hear Clement's or Jason's comments on that too. But first, Koji, we haven't heard from you yet. what's going on out in Japan, Korea? I think you've been in Taiwan a little bit. Some of the stuff we've talked about now. Can you kind of share some of just kind of the general vibe over there, kind of in the context of kind of Simon's points, adoption points?
Sure. Yeah, I'm actually currently living in Taiwan, so not in Japan. I don't really understand the real atmosphere surrounding Corona in Japan, but I mean, I of course follow stuff online. But general vibe. So when the market crashed in Japan, including myself, I was surprised. I didn't expect the Bitcoin price to go to the 3,000 USD near that. Didn't really expect that, so I got surprised as well. But overall, people, most of the kind of Bitcoiners, hodlers, don't seem to be faced too much in Japan as well. And then another interesting thing is this is probably happening in any other countries as well, but the number of sign-up for exchanges in Japan seem to increase. So one of the Japanese exchanges called Bitbank released an article, and they said the number of sign-up actually increased during the Corona market shock. Mm-hmm. So that's encouraging. But overall, to be quite honest with you, Bitcoin in Japan is really kind of not interesting topic. It used to have a much larger market, and it was much more relevant before, but nowadays it's losing its relevance, and it's probably the same in Korea as well. I personally estimate the market share of Bitcoin trading volume by toilet paper currency, because I cannot say the word, on my website called Bitcoinization.
Good word. I'll
I love toilet paper jokes, by the way. I love every single toilet paper joke during the Corona. But I track. Let me show you. Let me pull it down. Hold on. That's a very good question. In Taiwan's probably the country that had managed Corona probably the most. Yesterday we had 0 new cases in Taiwan, and you can go out and just go to stores if you want. There's not much restrictions in Taiwan. So toilet paper, I'm safe, fortunately. Yeah, I'm just curious what's the deal for other countries.
Here in China, is people do not come to rush for toilet paper, but I still remember last time during the SARS outbreak in 2003, people, everyone wants salt. I don't know why salt, but I still remember that. To me, so toilet paper is another version of salt.
I think it was the same way in the U.S. this time.
Yeah, sorry. Hold on. Let me.
But yeah, Koji does have some great analysis on these exchanges.
Yeah. I'm trying to hold on. Yeah.
While we're waiting, Richard, you spent I think a couple months in Japan in the last 6 or so. What would you have any take on kind of Bitcoin interest there? And kind of institutions coming on board. I know y'all onboarded some folks on Liquid, a little bit different.
Yeah, so I think in Japan, really, they're still reeling from all of their exchange hacks. So they kind of have a new regulation coming in place in April. It was due to come in place, and so they were all kind of waiting for that. So Japanese exchanges are slightly different from most of the other places in the world in that they list very few shitcoins, in fact. So it's got some epic shitcoins like Bitcoin Cash, but it's like Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple, or even worse. But those are the main ones, and they don't sort of have like 200, 100 pairs or anything like that. So they've been quite conservative, and really that's kind of affected the ability to actually adopt new technology as well. So that they've not just been kind of conservative on listing new assets, they've actually been very conservative on kind of upgrading infrastructure and doing all this technology stuff, which is 100% what they should be doing, because that's the reason they got hacked so many times. So I think it's a tough market. I think there's not that many kind of true kind of believers in Japan, but there are some really good people working on it. So I think the people that are working on it are doing it pretty quietly and just waiting for the kind of regulatory situation to get a little bit clearer, and then they're going to kind of push live with some interesting stuff. But yeah, for the most part, they're much more conservative than the rest of Asia, much more so than China, for example, where we can do a lot more stuff.
Yeah, he pretty much summed it up. But because of the regulation, this is one of the important things about Japan. Exchanges cannot really list new coins, new altcoins, shitcoins, whatever. So they're very conservative about coin listing, right? And as you can see, this is a chart this is my estimation of real toilet paper currency market share of like each national currency, right? So USDT, USD, Korean won. So Japan used to have, like back in 2017, Japan used to have what, 1/3 of the total market or something in terms of trading volume. Now it kind of fluctuates, but it now sort of has like sub 10%, and Korea is kind of the same, 10 to 12%, 7%. USD is picking up a little bit recently. So because of regulation, the other is like Richard mentioned, to be quite honest with you, there's not very strong Bitcoin community in Japan. And this is the same in Korea as well. So there's not many interesting new projects. There are some like few individuals who are very kind of well known in the Bitcoin community as well. For example, BTC based servers, Nicolas Dorier is based in Japan, but he's not really Japanese. The funny thing is many
Wiz and Bisq out of Tokyo.
Sorry?
Bisq, our friend of Bitcoin Magazine, Wiz.
I don't know Bisq is based in Tokyo, but I know a couple people working on Bisq living in Japan. So yeah. But anyways, there are not many
Shout out to
people.
the Bitcoin Hackers meetup in Tokyo. It's if anybody's in town, they should go to that. Wiz, as you mentioned, goes along to that. And Teruko does the organization, brings people together. That's where the Bitcoiners I know of in Japan go. So
don't want to talk about Bitcoin Cash too much, but there is some community.
One famous resident who has probably stepping back a little bit.
Roger, I know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another thing if I want to mention is
Sure.
Maybe Bitcoin Cash halving. I was surprised how nobody cared about it, even in Japan. I didn't really see much.
Let's have a sip though, Koji. I'll drink with you.
Okay, I don't have a drink, but sorry. Yeah, that probably crossed the line. But
a quick bit of trivia. Does anyone know what central bank invented quantitative easing?
Sorry.
Quick trivia. Do you know which bank invented quantitative easing? Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
so QE was invented by the central bank in Japan.
Good point. Yeah.
That kind of tracks with Simon's timeline there too.
Yeah. Well, quick disclaimer: I am a shareholder in Bitfinex, who is behind Tether. So take it as you wish. But I guess there's two ways of looking at it. So I'm also a shareholder in Kraken, and they've had a massive increase in the number of KYC and new accounts that has been happening on the exchange. Now, with Tether, it could be that a bunch of Bitcoin has been converted to Tether, increasing the cap. Or it also could be that a bunch of new dollars are entering the ecosystem. So you could take it both ways in terms of which way you want to interpret it. It could be sell pressure from crypto going into Tether, or it could be new USD making its way into the exchanges.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here as well. So, I mean, apart from Tether, sorry, I got a drink, but same with BUSD and USDC's also increased more than 2-3 times this year. I think I'm just looking at BUSD. I mean, this year it went from like 20 something million to now it's like 200. Yeah, so I think more and more stable coins are well, the experience with like using PAX and USDC is for people in Hong Kong is actually quite quick. If they want to just get into a stable coin and set a limit order, for example, that's what we're also seeing with people that came in 2018, 2019, instead of going through OTC desks or peer-to-peer exchanges, they just print their own. I'll take a few drinks, but that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with the stable coins as well is when it starts to intersect with the lending services as well. So at the moment, BUSD is, I think I got an email, don't quote me on this because I haven't used it, but I think I got an email from Binance offering me 8.5% if I put some fiat in and lend it in the BUSD market. So how sustainable those interest rates are, there's probably someone from the lending service that could help us understand
For
that.
sure.
If
Yeah,
you
Molly,
switch
we haven't
my
heard
interest rates.
Molly yet.
Oh,
Flex,
Molly,
you wanna-
could talk about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hashkey has, I guess Hashkey and Babel Finance both have lending products. Maybe Hashkey is a little bit more retail focused right now. If y'all both want to weigh in there, Molly, what are you seeing on the kind of stablecoin lending side and the rates that you're able to charge, or rates that you're able to give?
We're not starting the lending business yet, and now we're just offering the interest product, which is mostly quant trading. But I thought, but I have something to add on when Flex talking about the safe Bitcoin as safe haven, and then Simon say it's not safe haven because how it performed during this financial crisis. But I think this financial crisis happened recently. It's quite odd because the circuit breaker exists before, but only in 1997 happened, triggered once. But this time triggered 4 times. So is the situation really that bad? And also, during this stock market crash is quite odd because one day it just dropped dramatically and then next day just gone up quite a lot. And also, third, yeah, so that's pretty odd. And then the third point is, isn't gold supposed to be like safe haven asset? Why it dropped as well? For is people say there's like huge liquidity crisis, but why the US dollar it's only gone up on the exchange rate? The lending rate between the banks didn't change; it's still the same. So, and also why when the QE announcement that day triggered another circular breaker. So that's how I say. I think this financial crisis can't explain that Bitcoin is not safe haven asset because this financial crisis is super odd, and then people didn't. Yeah, people really didn't talk about why this financial crisis happened because from the market behaves exactly like why I behave. I don't think they're that stupid. In fact, I think they're way smarter than I am. But the way they act just so immature.
Yeah. Well,
right.
the markets aren't the markets at the moment. We've never had an experiment in human history where the governments have decided that they won't let stock markets crash. So in the case of the US, any time you get a correction in the stock market, they fire off an injection.
irrational though. I think there's some reason that why this financial crisis happened is I think the Bridgewater all-weather strategy. So they probably because a lot of people just apply the same strategy, and that's why somehow. So if everyone is just using the all-weather strategy, then it causes like they all using the same strategy. They all have the same assets. So when the crisis happen, they all act the same.
Hey, Molly, great Bitcoin pillow back there, by the way. Also,
huh?
It's a great pillow. And then Flex, if you have any comments on Molly's comments there, kind of on your gold piece, and then Simon's on the interest side. But CK first.
All right, what was the question around interest? It's like
yeah, Flex, if you have a comment on Simon's put on interest, if these interest rates 8.5%, I think is being kind of pushed by Binance now, if those things are sustainable, and then Molly's kind of comments on the market at large, gold maybe not acting as kind of store value price wise, similar to post 09.
For the interest rate, actually the key drivers of this market, of the interest rate of cash and the Bitcoins are firstly the premium or discount between the future and the spot. So this is the number one driver. The second driver is actually the cash supply.
That's an important piece there too.
Yeah. And the second driver is actually the supply of the cash from traditional financial institution to this market. And they are a bunch of financial institutions. They are providing funding to these BTC backed loan services. So two drivers, but the most important key driver is actually the future spot discount and the premium. So recently the future is actually traded discount from the spot. So we borrow or we get this cash from other institutions with negative interest rate. Namely, we earn from the other counterparties to get the cash supply back. So recently, the rate on the cash should be very low, and the rate for the Bitcoin could be quite high. But back to February, when it's traded at premiums, so lots of people borrow cash and against Bitcoin, so the cash rate will be quite high back to like February. So the key driver is actually the future spot market.
But are the companies subsidized? Like, I mean, personally, I believe, I don't know this, but it feels like BlockFi might be subsidizing their interest rates with venture capital to try and get new adoption. And maybe Binance is trying to get new adoption of BUSD. So they're probably subsidizing those interest rates with their profits.
Yeah, even some BD guys from Binance just promoted the BUSD to BioFinance, asked us to support that BUSD, and we could get some sorts of a marketing campaign support and some sorts of interest rate subsidy. But I don't want to comment on the BlockFi's interest rate, but I personally don't think it's reasonable. But yeah, if they want to promote their business, it's something that they need to do.
Yes, I guess the trend is trying to figure out, well, if those types of interest rates are sustainable, then I think that's going to drive a lot of fear into the stablecoin market. But if they are just simply, unsustainable interest rates to try and drive adoption, then obviously those interest rates are just going to normalize over time towards where we are in traditional markets as adoption grows.
Yeah. Yes, they are reasonable actually, because this market is kind of quite volatile. The expected risk is higher, therefore the expected return is higher as well. So people would be willing to pay higher interest rate to get cash by posting Bitcoin as collateral, or paying higher interest for Bitcoin by posting other collaterals like Ethereum, like BCH, these kind of things, shitcoins. So yeah, that's marketable. That's actually market activity, not something that I think is Ponzi or not something spam. Yeah. It really really depends on the market color. Then like the future spot trading arbitrage opportunities. So not really some certain interest rate could drive anything, but it's really some people doing the trading in the market. So sometimes they need cash, sometimes they need Bitcoin. That's just kind of trading activities.
Yeah, good commentary. Hey, I want to move now to kind of the upcoming halving, especially the kind of situation for miners in that context. Shun, one kind of question for you that I'm interested in your opinion on. You've kind of tweeted a little bit about. So there's kind of in the Western press, and I guess I'd put up that, you know, X percent of mining is in China because they put, you know, the mining pools that are based in China, like F2 pool, in a bucket and say, hey, all this mining is in China. How do you think about kind of mining geographically, where it is, the importance of where it is, and then for F2 pool, like your customer geography? How do you think about that? How should the media be reporting on that? And then just any thoughts on the upcoming halving and how your company is thinking about it?
By saying lots of miners from China, I think that's too general. You know, some of companies like Bullions, of course, they were Chinese, and most of their users or miners from China. And I think that's partly because, I mean, mostly because they target like marketing in China. And for us, like lately, we already work hard to try to decentralize. If you follow my tweets lately, we spend a lot of time trying to decentralize ourselves. You know, because we believe that you know, to have all the hash rate centralized in one country is not healthy for Bitcoin in the long run. And we currently from inside of company, and we still like largely a Chinese company, like basically like 70% of our current employees still Chinese, but we are growing very fast internationally. So the near-term goal is like to, you know, right now F2 pool is the largest Bitcoin mining pool in terms of hash rate, and we also support more than 40 different cryptocurrencies, and I think probably we support the most type of different cryptocurrencies. That's why I said earlier to you guys that we do not believe in one God.
One God.
We're not like only believe in Bitcoin. But Bitcoin still make like 70, even 80% of our total, like if you convert to if you convert to fiat, then it makes like 80% of our total mining reward.
Right.
The halving of Bitcoin, the upcoming halving of Bitcoin has a huge impact to miners and also mining pools. So, but in other point of view, Bitcoin halving, like it, you know, what circle the blockchain Bitcoin is the hash rate, and beyond hash rate is the money and the mining machines, those equipment, their costs. So if you want to attack the Bitcoin network, you need to you need to have more mining equipment than the current overall mining equipment to launch a 51% attack. So if the Bitcoin halved and the Bitcoin price doesn't grow, and that will make the Bitcoin blockchain less secure. It probably won't happen in one day, but it will happen. So I think from 12% BTC to 6.25 BTC, that drop, we can still, the current Bitcoin market cap and the current Bitcoin network hash rate can still handle that. And also given the recent price like bounce from the low 3,800 US dollars to up to almost 7,000 US dollars. And I think that's well beyond the profit line of most miners. So I think the Bitcoin network will survive and will be make a smooth transit after this very next halving event. But I also think the long term, like after the next 4 years, the next 4 years, when the block reward reduced from 6 BTC to 3 BTC, from 3 BTC to 1.5 BTC, there could be at some point, like if the price cannot be go up forever, so there could be some point, like I hope it won't happen, but that's all. I always worry about that.
Yeah. Hey, Richard, as a monotheist, I want to hear your thoughts on that. But appreciate the commentary there, Shun. And then Clement, I know y'all work with a lot of miners. Want to hear your thoughts on that first question also. But Richard.
So I mean, like, are we still seriously talking about like China having influence over mining after the past few years? I think it's ridiculous. So the users determine what Bitcoin is by whether or not they accept it as Bitcoin. So talking about attacks, you can fork Bitcoin as much as you like. You can do a 51% attack. What are you going to do? You're going to just produce some stale blocks or something. Ultimately, I don't think sort of where that mining is geographically located is a problem, except for the miners themselves. But I do think that miners themselves are looking to relocate out of China due to kind of political and economic risk associated with mining in China. It's only one sort of local government or central government decision away from having all of your kind of miners confiscated and losing kind of all of your capital outlay. So Blockstream do mining in the US and Canada. And I think we're seeing more and more kind of interest from people who are looking to get out of China for a more kind of stable mining kind of solution. And I guess when you kind of can't see, when you're not physically kind of in control of your miners, there's always a kind of risk there. And so the more you can reduce that risk by sort of, be it jurisdictional risk or by kind of advanced kind of monitoring tools that are available that may not kind of be sort of standard in sort of Chinese mining facilities, then I think we're seeing a move more into kind of North America and away from China. I mean, that's obviously talking about mining and the physical machines themselves, more than obviously what Wangjun does with the pool. And so pools still we'll see those pools emerge wherever they are. There's not a huge amount of kind of infrastructure except for kind of Stratum servers that are needed for that. So that's kind of two sides of the same kind of question, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they covered it. Richard and Wang covered it really well. What we're seeing in Hong Kong, I mean, we're still seeing some people like asking us for machines and hosting. But generally speaking, I think we're nothing compared to like 2017, where um, that sort of amount, like we're not seeing that much interest. In terms of the miners that we serve, I mean, a lot of them are actually hedging off their positions 2-3 months ago, and they've quite a few of them have already switched off their machines, like last month or a couple months, in March. So not sure. I mean, I would presume that, I mean, if price doesn't go up significantly, then during that, after the halving, I think more will switch off. I guess we'll see.
We've crossed an hour. I guess for this first edition, we might close it off here pretty soon. We have a couple of questions on Periscope. We can maybe address on Twitter after, but I want to get a kind of a last word from everyone. Can be about kind of that last question, thoughts on the upcoming halving, thoughts on this kind of virus and geopolitical situations, effects on Bitcoin adoption, thoughts on anything. Can be so kind of a last word plus a shill for something that you're working on, something that you're passionate about. So you get a last word plus one shill at the end here, and we'll go from the bottom to the top. So Simon, if you want to go first, and then Flex, and then Koji, and then up to the left there.
Sure. I just want to really some final thoughts is that thank God Bitcoin exists. I think during this time, it's amazing to see this whole everything roll out, and the fact that we have an exit from the traditional financial system, just really stay safe, everybody. Watch out what comes next, because the central bank digital currencies, they are going to be really bringing, that we're going to end up in a scenario where you're trying to transact in one country, you're doing a deal in another country, and then you do it online in Zoom, and you have 3 governments that all want to automate tax collection, and then you have to try and get it back from each country. Is then connected to your passport, and you don't have the coronavirus vaccine, and therefore it gets switched off, and your funds are all there. Your helicopter money will be delivered through a digital wallet issued by a central bank. And, we've got some really, really challenging times coming up with traditional money. And I think that's going to make people interested in Bitcoin, but also expect a lot of attacks to Bitcoin as a result of that as well. In terms of a shill, I'm giving lots of commentary as the financial crisis unfolds on my YouTube channel, Simon Dixon. If you're interested in investing in the companies behind the crypto market, then still part of banktothefuture.com. We've been around the oldest crypto business now, been around we were celebrating before this a decade in crypto securities. So we're still pushing along.
Awesome. And kind of the investment climate, startup funding is something that we definitely want to get to next week. The relevant topic. Flex.
Yeah.
Last word plus the shill.
Yeah. What I just want to say is that actually have some faith in Bitcoin. Actually, they were actually the violent deleverage activity before or after the halving during back to last 2 halvings. So this is actually normal. This violent deleverage activity, and after the deleverage, the market becomes more healthy, and we can expect a long bull in the coming months. So yeah, I think people will get get to be very happy about this. But yeah, let's have some faith in Bitcoin.
All right, positive thing to end on. And then you get one shill too if you want to shill.
I don't have anything.
Well, the company logo is back there if you want to see that.
Yeah.
Next we have Koji.
Yeah, okay. Basically adding to what Simon said, but from the perspective from Japan, my observation is that, well, Japan was the first country to do quantitative easing and first central bank to buy like ETFs and everything, right? And now the Fed is doing the same thing. But seems to me that most people don't seem to care about the risk of quantitative easing and this kind of stuff just yet. People seem to be super worried about Corona and other things, how their stores are not going out of business and stuff like that. But after Corona, that I believe that's what's going to matter midterm. So I have faith in Bitcoin myself. But it might take more time than we expect or we hope. So that's one thing. The other one thing to show. So one of the projects I'm working on with a Japanese company called Nayuta is a Bitcoin full node running on mobile, basically. So based off of AB Core's work, we're trying to make it more usable and try to bring Bitcoin full node to more regular people. So I'll probably be able to show something in a month or two. So I'm pretty excited about that. So when I'm ready, hopefully I'll come back to the show and talk more about it. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll be following up for sure. Comment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely optimistic about Bitcoin. Been telling friends and family, this is the best time to start accumulating. Obviously, we've got to closely monitor this coronavirus thing. But I think this year, next year would be a great time to start accumulating. Yeah, I mean, in terms of shilling, I mean, for us, if anyone needs help with fiat on ramp, that's something that we can help in both Southeast Asian countries.
Perfect. Molly.
I think pretty much the same as Flex. I'm very optimistic about Bitcoin, and I think Corona might have a bigger impact on the economic, but because recently there's a lot of business that went out of business, and also people are talking over social media how many then they're losing the jobs, and also they're getting the salary cut. So the coronavirus might have a much bigger impact on like economic. And also I've heard quite a lot of story that the mining farm, then they don't have enough machines to host. Yeah, and then people are turning the miner down. So I think on the price wise might not be that optimistic.
Less optimistic. All right. Now one shill. You're on mute. Shill something. All right, Jason.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yep. So I guess my closing thought is I think I echo a lot of the thoughts that have been shared, and I don't think there is a better time or a more relevant time for Bitcoin. Even before this whole COVID situation started gaining its notoriety, you have folks like Ray Dalio coming out and calling for an economic paradigm shift, as these kind of macro factors are favoring something that is provably scarce and also seizure resistant. So I'm quite optimistic for Bitcoin's future. And as investors, I guess I have to drink after this, but we try to be open-minded about the investable universe as well. And there are many kind of projects and efforts from teams not trying to compete with Bitcoin that I am quite fascinated by. So I explore a lot of these different projects on my podcast, BlockCrunch. And we have amazing guests like CK on the show before, talking about like Bitcoin versus DeFi, for instance. So if you're interested in something like that, feel free to tune in on any podcasting app. And I hope everyone stays safe from this Corona situation.
Nice parting word. And a polytheism approach, like Wang Chun. What are you drinking over there, by the way? Is that some
beer? Do you believe? Okay, yeah. So I still have fresh memory that for the last halving and even the last halving, and actually it was us who mined the first block after the half. I mean the first 12.5 BTC block. So it's about 1 month away from the next one, and we are also considered to organize a live broadcast event to give people who are interested to opportunity to witness the born of the first 6.25 BTC block live. I think yeah. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Good show. And Richard, I think we skipped over you down there, but last word, plus the show.
Yeah.
Sorry, on me, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I just think that governments have a reputation for using a crisis to take away personal freedoms, right? So I'd urge everybody who's in the Bitcoin space to remember that, and to know that this magical money tree that all governments are promising us is not in our interests, no matter how good it sounds. So I hope everybody out there is staying safe, and I guess we just amend the tagline a little bit and stay safe, stack sats.
Stay safe, stack sats. I love it. Nice final words there. And thank you all for joining for this first edition of Bitcoin Magazine's Happy Hour Asia edition. You are a part of history also for this. So thanks, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.